Way Forward, a virtual town hall. Some of Washington State's top experts will answer your questions about life after COVID-19 restrictions are lifted. Sponsored by Primera Blue Cross, always in your corner. Now, from New Day Northwest, here's Margaret Larson.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. These past few months, have been some of the hardest times our state or country have ever seen. But in this show, we're not going to be looking backward. We're going to be looking for a way forward. We've assembled some of the top experts, doctors and officials, to answer the questions you sent us about life as COVID-19 restrictions are lifted. Our experts will answer your most frequently asked questions, including what responsibilities do employers have to keep a safe workplace and protect employees? Will costs for testing and vaccinations be covered by most health care plans? What resources or funds are available for the uninsured or people who have lost medical insurance through their employers because of job loss or furloughs related to COVID-19. But first up, we received a lot of questions about the migration back to the workplace. So King 5 asked some folks from the business world along with public health experts about what that return to the office space might look like. For many in this pandemic, going to work means staying home. Naturally, people are eager to get back to their actual offices, but experts say we all need to do our part to make that happen.
I think ultimately it's a shared responsibility. Obviously, the employer does. The employer has to create safe conditions for employees to come back to. They have to have the right policies in place, things like screening employees as they come in, having environments where they can be 6 feet apart, and creating environments where one could telework if that's a possibility. So the employer has a lot of responsibility and for setting the structure and the stage, I think, for us to be successful. But then it comes down to us as individual employees as well. We've got the responsibility to pay attention to our hygiene. We have the responsibility to make sure we're not coming to work when we're not feeling well, and that we're monitoring our physical distance as well, that we're not getting closer than 6 feet to folks, that we're not congregating in our common areas. So really, it's a shared responsibility along with state oversight in terms of giving guidelines and recommendations about how to safely return to work.
Steve Pemberton is the Chief Human Resources Officer for WorkHuman, a business that facilitates employee recognition with offices in the U.S. and Ireland. Its 600 employees are now working at home.
So just tick off for me as you think about it and you think, okay, here are the things we have to think about if we're going to bring people back. What are the first 4, 5, 6 things that come to your mind?
First of all, safety and sanitation, specifically masks, gloves, appropriate sanitation. Number 2 is signage, how far apart that you can actually stand and where you can be at any specific time. The third are just simply floor configurations in office space, which all of which we're going to actually have to repurpose. And then the fourth is in the event of. So in the event that we have a positive test anywhere at any time, the protocols necessary to make sure that that person is isolated, with whom have they been in contact and for how lengthy a period of time, what kind of self-isolation practice do we actually have to go to. I mean, there's a whole long list of other things as well, but those are the first 4.
Former Governor Christine Gregoire now heads Challenge Seattle. It's an alliance of 19 of the region's largest companies. They had been working to solve other issues, but when the pandemic hit, they quickly turned their combined attention to flattening the curve. They've produced suggested guidelines for reopening businesses.
What do employers need to do? What are they most responsible for as businesses open?
So to make that work site safe, in other words, obviously make sure it's clean and you've got a procedure in place to make sure it's clean in any way that you can. Starbucks is a perfect example where they're constantly cleaning and making sure that everything's good. Obviously, social or physical distancing to make sure that people do not have to come in contact if they don't. To make sure that people are being screened when they come into the work site, whether it's an employer or a visitor, because if we need to do contact tracing, we don't want to shut down forever. So let's know who was there. We can help the investigator from public health if we do. So it's those kinds of things. It's also about how do you communicate with your employees? How do you give them a real sense of commitment to safety so they feel good? How do you post your plan at your work site so anybody who comes in feels good about visiting there, knowing full well that that business has said safety first?
With global locations, Starbucks was actually made for people to congregate. Stores in China are reopening with restrictions now, but as we social distance in the U.S., what's next for us?
This is what we learned in China. First, the welfare and health of our partners and our customers. Second, what can we do to help partner with local health officials to actually contain the crisis? And then third, how do we continue to serve our communities, such as the food banks, and supporting our first responders who are working for us?
Our experts say the future will require a constant calibration of safety standards and new ways of doing business. It won't be quick or easy, they say, but we'll get there together. For more information about the experts featured on the show, more resources, or any of the topics we're covering, text the word FORWARD to 33438 and we'll send you a link. There is much more to come as we explore the way forward and